The most insane Anarchy in the Arena match of all time. New Japan's Hiroshi Tanahashi appears on the show. Mercedes Moné and Hangman Adam Page win their Owen Hart tournament. And more. I'm Luke Owen, welcome to the WrestleTalk News, and this is my review of AEW Double or Nothing 2025.
Support WrestleTalk!
But we kick off with something a little bit different because AEW ran a big pay-per-view in 2025, so you know what that means. WWE counter-programmed it to try and hurt their pay-per-view buys. The WWE show in question was the tremendously fun NXT Battleground, which saw Sol Ruka retain her Women's North American Championship over Kalani Jordan in a very good opener. The Soul Snatcher continues to rule, and Josh Briggs teamed with Luke's current favorite tag team, Hank and Tank, to beat the Culling with an Inamura return. Stacks beat Tony D'Angelo in a surprisingly very good match, which also saw the return of Crucifino, but the match of the night has to go to the brilliant bout between Stephanie Vaquer and Jordynne Grace for the NXT Women's Championship. The action was superb and saw a near fall that legit everyone in the building bought as the finish from the SVB, but it was a spiral tap from Vaquer that finally put Grace away. NXT actually did a really good job of making you believe that Miles Bourne could beat Obafemi for the NXT Championship, but the retention was fairly a foregone conclusion. However, the main event did see a surprise victor as Trick Williams became the first ever WWE contracted wrestler to win the TNA Championship as he beat Joe Hendry in the main event via shenanigans. Yes, you heard that right. NXT's Trick Williams is the new TNA World Champion, which sets up a very fun story of the invading WWE heel being the promotion's top title holder. So what did you make of NXT Battlegrounds? Let me know in the comments down below. But over in AEW World now, and All Elite Wrestling celebrated 6 years on pay-per-view with a stonking show that can be ranked among their very best ever. The buy-in opened with a surprise as Harley Cameron and Anna Jay beat Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, which felt like AEW putting in some building blocks for a women's tag title scene. Like we need more belts. And your party match of the night saw Bandito, Commander, Hologram, and AR Fox defeat Roppongi Vice and Crew in an all-killer, no-filler action match. It was a much better use of the buy-in with only 2 matches to get you hyped for the main pay-per-view rather than 4. It also meant that Double or Nothing, despite its 4-hour length, never felt like it dragged, especially when you open with the brilliance of Mercedes Moné beating Jamie Hayter to win the women's side of the Owen Hart tournament to earn a shot at the AEW Women's Championship at All in Texas. Spoilers, it will be Toni Storm, more on that later. Moné worked over Hayter's back for a lot of the match, including 3 consecutive backstabbers leading into a statement maker, but Jamie made her comeback with a sliding Haterade that the crowd totally bought as the finish. Well, either that, or they just really wanted to see Jamie win and Mercedes not win, which was bad news for this crowd, as Mercedes did indeed pick up the win with a small package which also sort of doubled as a DDT at the same time. Moné winning really does make sense, as you do want to put on your biggest title match that you can for your biggest show of the year, and Moné winning with a small package is a good bit of wrestling storytelling given Toni Storm's big package. After the commentary team gave some well wishes to Jim Ross, commentator Nigel McGuinness teamed up with Daniel Garcia to take on FTR. It's always wonderful to see Nigel in the ring, given that we all sort of believed that it would never happen again, and he did everything that he needed to do in this match to put over Dax and Cash. The finish ruled as FTR laid out Nigel with the Shadow Machine on the outside, and Dax had Garcia in the sharpshooter while Cash held the ring from anyone else who tried to help Danny. He dived into Daddy Magic, he kicked a recovering Nigel from the apron, so the referee called for the submission. It made FTR look ruthless and like a united unit who cannot be stopped. Ricochet beat Mark Briscoe in a stretcher match that was a lot of fun, if a little corny for my tastes, and the Hurt Syndicate retained their tag titles over the Sons of Texas. This was one of those matches where the result was never in question, but the involvement of MJF certainly had some question marks hanging over it. He tried on multiple occasions to cheat because, as he put it at one point, this was taking too long, but Bobby and MVP stopped him, as that's not how they operate. They instead did what they do best. They hurt Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara to win. This also featured Luke Owen's Sign of the Night, which goes to this person's The Turd Syndicate sign. That is superb work. Kazuchika Okada beat Speedball Mike Bailey to retain his Continental Championship with a brilliant finish that saw Okada hit a drop kick to Bailey as he was doing his shooting star knee drop in midair and then hit a Rainmaker for the win. Timeless Toni Storm beat Mina Shirakawa in a match that was as much about hard hitting as it was about showboating. Mina targeted Toni's knee to apply the figure four, which built to a really good tease of a tap out spot. Storm couldn't even run to do her hip attack, but eventually almost powered her way through one so she could hit one in the corner. And following a brilliant big/small package reversal sequence, which has been built up on TV over the last few weeks, Toni Storm hit Storm Zero for the win. This was a great match and sets a stage for a massive match between Toni Storm and the undefeated Mercedes Moné at All in Texas. And speaking of massive matches, I don't even know where to begin with the 2025 Anarchy in the Arena. Following Dynasty, where it looked like the post-pandemic Double or Nothing brawl tradition was rearing its head again, I have to admit I was not enthused. I like the match type, don't get me wrong, but I was more interested in Omega and Swerve teaming up to take on the Bucks and the Ops taking out Death Riders. So kind of stopping that for 1 month to do a gimmick match because it's that time of year just felt like a formality to extend out the stories. But then they did this match, and I'm very happy to say that my unenthusiasm was misplaced. This isn't a formality, this is f***ing insanity. Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, the Ops, and Willow Nightingale teamed up to take on Death Riders and the Young Bucks. And while everyone made cool entrances, Swerve out on the Hunt dressed as Predator, Kenny out as Captain North America, it was the Bucks who stole the show with an Abe Lincoln parody speech that I'm really only aware of because I've seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And because their entrance was last, their historical music played over the start of the match. Not really feeling these sorts of vibes, Kenny and Swerve asked for something that was a bit more fight-worthy. So the production team obliged by playing the Pointer Sisters' I'm So Excited with their tongue placed firmly in their cheek as a knowing wink to the online brigade who did not like that was Dynamite's theme at the start of the year. And while that was very fun, Kenny wanted something a lot more thematic. So we partied like it was 2001 as they brawled to Drowning Pool's Bodies. And the bodies did, indeed, hit the floor. Though I must correct Mr. Omega as he said that this was alternative rock, but this was no alternative rock, good sir. This is the greatest musical achievement of the 1990s. This was new freaking metal! Right, so this was so bonkers that AEW had to have 4 cameras on screen at the same time to try and keep up. Bodies, which was played about 4 or 5 times, was stopped when Claudio swung Swerve into a speaker system. Willow ended up chained to the ring post by her bloody ear. Nick did a swanton bomb off the stage to Hobbs through a table. Swerve came out on a forklift to help Powerhouse Hobbs. It was just madness. Let me try this one. Nick made Kenny spring off the top rope by his midsection, so he flipped into a powerbomb through a table by Matthew on the outside. It was, to put it mildly, anarchy. Death Riders took over things. We got a sequence of chokes and dives. Willow teamed with Hobbs to spear and spinebuster a bunch of dudes. Then everyone just started staple gunning each other. Matt stapled Hobbs, but it had no effect. So Swerve got the staple gun. I was like, I'll show you how it's done. He stapled Mox in the neck, Claudio in the head, and Matt in the dick. Then Marina stapled Swerve Strickland right in the tongue. And if you thought it was a gimmick, Swerve showed the staple in his tongue after the match. Willow hit a double spear, Omega hit Shafir with a snapdragon, Bucks gave everyone, including referee Rick Knox, a super kick party. Willow and Swerve did the TK driver to Matt. Hook made his return dressed as Kenny from South Park. Omega got an EVB trigger with thumbtacks in his mouth. Gabe Kidd ran down to beat up the good guys. Bloody Mark Briscoe ran down to even the odds, and the baby faces locked the Death Riders in an ambulance while Omega hit a one-winged angel to Nicholas off the stage through a table that had actual explosives in it, and Swerve hit the Swerve Stomp with thumbtack trainers to get the win. Bonkers in all the best kinds of ways. So much carnage and so much fun. My hat that everyone has enjoyed the return of must be taken off to everyone involved. On Dynamite, Will Ospreay said he wasn't afraid to follow that madness and he didn't need to, as the Don Callis family beat Paragon via a brainbuster by Kyle Fletcher to Kyle O'Reilly. It was a nice build for a TNT program, and the baddies jumped the goodies after the match with Roppongi Vice getting involved, but the faces were aided by Brody King, Tomohiro Ishii, and a surprise appearance by New Japan president Hiroshi Tanahashi. And it brought us to the main event, and boy howdy, did AEW make this feel like the biggest deal. One of the benefits of the world title not being defended on the show meant the stakes for this match felt so much higher. This wasn't just about winning the Owen. It wasn't just about getting a title shot at the biggest AEW show of the year. This was also about which man was going to step up and save All Elite Wrestling. Would it be Will Ospreay, the shiny new toy who has been pegged, always been pegged, as the future of this company? Or will it be the day one cowboy looking for redemption? This was a brilliant match worked between two of the very best, and even when the announcers table broke early, they never lost the crowd who were on the edge of their seats the entire time, including a sensational bit of drama as Hangman Page set up for the buckshot and Will told him to go for it because he's going to hit him with the hidden blade first. It was the shootout that Ospreay wanted on Dynamite, and Will was just a second too late as Page hit the buckshot for an awesome near fall. But on the second draw, it was Will that hit the hidden blade out of nowhere for a near fall of his own. There were lovely tributes to Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles, as well as Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland, but it was a final buckshot lariat that got Hangman Adam Page the win. 6 years ago, he won the Casino Gauntlet to get a shot at the world title and was unsuccessful. Can he right that wrong now when it matters the most to the company and to him personally? Double or Nothing was a brilliant show. From start to finish, the show did not put a foot wrong, and I cannot wait for All in Texas. And you can join me in that excitement as this Thursday sees the return of my reviews of AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. I would like to thank each and every one of you for your feedback. But in the meantime, check out our predictions for Money in the Bank in 3 words or less / fewer by clicking the video on screen right now.